Okay, I'm live. Wendy, are you here? I don't see Wendy. Oh, Wendy is here. Hold on. Hold on, Wendy. I've got to pop you in. There you are. Oh my gosh. Can you hear me? Can you see me?
Right.
I'm just starting to get good at
Yes, I
uh,
can hear you and I can see you.
oh good.
Yeah.
Good. So everybody, I want to welcome you here as well as welcoming Wendy here. And sorry about the time delay. Totally messed up the time difference between the USA and Nigeria. So I apologize for that gratefully. And for people watching from Nigeria, you may be hopping onto the replay, and I apologize greatly for that as well. But as you guys are joining us, please say hello so we can say hello as well. And we're going to get started. I think, oh, you got it. Okay. So, thank you for joining me, Wendy. I so appreciate you being here. And I would love you to tell everybody who you are and your company and a little bit about what you do.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Pumped Up Parenting. I love parenting groups a lot. And I'm so excited to be here speaking. I'm Wendy Ologe, and I'm a parent coach. I run the Intentional Parent. I'm the founder of the Intentional Parent Academy, Parent Coaching Academy for parents. I believe that parenting should be learned, and that's why we are here. Thank you so much, Celia, for the invitation.
My pleasure. And I'm so glad you've decided to join me. And I want to ask you a few questions first about why you decided to become a parenting coach and somebody that parents can turn to learn more how to be a more peaceful, more intentional parent.
Oh, okay. What led me to us was actually about 10 years ago, I was presented with an opportunity to parent a teenager. Of course, at first I failed woefully at it. You would actually think that being able to parent a child is just innate. When you just have the child, you just do what it is that you know. But of course, I found out that I was just limited to my own level of knowledge. I realized I needed to know more. I needed to do more, which was what I did. I set up and then started to learn more, but I actually went into parent coaching proper. One of the things that led me to that was, if you've gone through this, it means that other parents might also do the same thing that you've gone through. So it was me extending, my helping hand to other parents to say, I've walked through this. I can also help you manage through it.
Absolutely. And I just want to give a quick shout out to Mary Beth is here, and Uchechi is here, and Linda is here. So I just want to say hi to them. They're the ones that have said hello to us. Yeah, absolutely. And, I feel the same way. It's like, I'm now a mom and a grandma, and I've been through about almost everything that a parent can go through. I'm part of a blended family. I'm not part of, I've parented a blended family, and they've all had, there's been various issues that have come up. And same with grandparenting. That's, I've had my grandkids live with me for a couple of years, and it's all a little, different out there. And absolutely, I mean, the things that we go through, you're not alone going through it. Everybody's going through it. The little, issues that you do, trying to break habits, trying to potty train, trying not to yell at your kids, trying not to, just let them zombie out on video games and TV and screens all day, feeling frustrated with the way they are talking to you or you're talking to them. It's everybody feels that way, everyone. And with our experience, if we can help, I feel like if I can turn one parent around from maybe hurting their child or screaming and yelling at their child all the time, if I could change that life of that child and me that are working to really create a peaceful, calm, intentional environment for children, that is impacting the world, And so I wanted to ask you, I always say hi to Joy is here and somebody else is here. I don't know who that is. Jasmine is here. I want to ask you, because we are in two different countries. I'm in the United States and you're in Nigeria, and parenting cultures are somewhat different in our countries. In United States, I run into a lot of parents that are very, they're even either helicopter parents, and they're just constantly, hovering over their kids. They won't give them room to breathe. Or they're parents that don't hover at all, don't do anything for them, and just let them kind of be free range chickens out there in the fields. And in Nigeria, I know from our conversations, the culture there is a little different. Can you talk about that a little bit?
I think culture plays a major role when it comes to parenting. Yes, because many times we do things from where we are coming from. It's only natural. So I've also been privileged to look at how parenting is done in other countries. Been there, countries like the US, like the UK, and all that. I've also seen firsthand how things are a bit different. However, there's one thing that is standard that I've found out that parenting issues are same many of the times. That we're dealing with parents who are yelling is yelling everywhere. There are parents who are yelling everywhere. So parenting problems are not particularly peculiar to particular regions. However, parenting skills and techniques actually differ because of the different kind of cultures that we come from. Of course, the culture, the society is the product of the family. So, of course, whatever it is that happens in the family is what you will see, firsthand in the culture of the place. So, the culture of the place has direct effect, on how children are treated, how parents raise their children, and all that. For instance, I tell you, for instance, you find the older people are always right kind of system. I also think the Jewish system also have something similar to that, that is not just the white, So you will find that in Africa a lot, where we insist that the children will have to know, you have to greet, it has to be you, the respect system is on the huge side for us. So, however, that does not mean that parenting children outside of Africa, that there's no system, the respect system there. It's there. But now the difference is in the how it's enforced. So while it's enforced differently in Africa, it's enforced differently in America and the UK, as well. But these challenges are common. It's just that we have different approaches to it.
Exactly. And ultimately, the people form the culture. So it's not to say that a culture that is in place cannot be changed. It absolutely can be changed if enough people are willing to change it. And that's why, I love having you here, because, I work on getting people to stop yelling at their kids, because when I talk to parents why they yell at their kids, I would say 99% of the parents that yell at their children have been yelled at as children. And once you start kind of remembering what it was like to be yelled at, how you felt, how you always felt not good enough because I was yelled at, and I know everybody who was yelled at felt like they were no good, and eventually, depending on the extent of it, they get to the point where they hate themselves. Now, in my family, that did not get to that point, but I still felt like I wasn't good enough. I couldn't do anything right. But I never got to the point where I hated myself. But absolutely, when kids go through yelling and abuse, that's what they result in. They don't hate their parents, they hate themselves. And it's important to influence the parents that are now raising our adults of the future, because they can change the culture in a community, in a country, and throughout the world. I mean, the more it impacts, the more it does. And respect, like you and I have talked about in the past, just because you are creating a more peaceful, a more peaceful family, doesn't mean the children are lacking respect. It's actually, in my eyes, creating more respect, to be calm, to let them take part in the raising of the family and the vision of the family. That actually creates more respect than less respect. And, and sometimes people don't see it that way, but once our methods, and I say our methods because we have very similar teaching methods, are in place, they discover that. And I want to say hi to Jennifer, and who else is here that I met?
Okay.
Mary Beth. Go ahead. Sorry, I was saying.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, so you said something about yelling, and then you were saying something about when a parent is yelled, or parent had been yelled at. The parent has percentage that you're going to yell at your child is actually very high. I don't want to put a particular percentage to it so that I don't quote wrong statistics. However, it's so true, because you will have people, okay, who are raised under such conditions, and then they get to a point where they actually find themselves doing those things even though they never liked it. Because I usually say that parenting characteristics are reflective even when you don't know, because our subconscious, a very large part of it, our subconscious is formed at 0 to 10. And of course, we also act from our subconscious as adults, which is why if you have a wrong blueprint about money, for instance, you have a wrong blueprint about money, when you have become an adult, it becomes difficult for you to actually, work with another blueprint, because that's what you've been given. Programming happens, at those early stages of life. And the moment, that child has it, that's it. The child is going to become an adult and act from their subconscious. So their subconscious is what, brings up, whether they want it or not, or whether they like it or not, they see themselves doing this thing. So a very high percentage of the time, you find out that if you've been yelled at as a parent, you're going to, in turn, be a yeller, except you do something about it.
Exactly. And I would say so many parents that do yell at their children or really create an aggressive kind of environment in their home feel badly about it. They feel guilty. I never met a person that yells at their family, their children, their significant other, that doesn't feel badly about it. I was yelled at by my father, and this man, he just passed away a month ago, but he was an incredible human, and he was larger than life, and he's done amazing things for the world. But he would yell at us when he would get irritable. And I know before he died, when he was 92 years old, we were talking about it one time, and he said he always felt badly. He regrets it now. At 92 years old, he said, I regret the way I was not able, or I didn't have the tools to handle, my temper. And when he was raised, he was not just mentally abused, he was never physically abused. Those voices in his head were still there.
Many times if parents could actually be really sincere, that's a lot of sincerity and a lot of awareness at that age, really, because we find out that we are continually not really sitting down to analyze some of these things, because if we do, we will realize that it's because we do not have control over some of this. We don't have the right tools to use, because the moment you have the right tools to use, really, then you will be able to actually work on your emotions and be able to control them. I usually say in my book, Connect to Correct, I said, the children are not the reason you yell. You are the reason, and you are also the solution. The only reason is because you can't manage your emotions. So you are the one who should be able to, deal with it yourself.
Exactly. I love that. You are the reason and the solution. And so many parents will be like, oh, my child is, constantly acting up. My child is, doing this to be mean to me. They're doing this, to spite me. They're 4 years old and they're doing this to be mean to you. They're not doing it to be mean.
Exactly. Exactly.
I tell parents,
sometimes parents will say, the child is doing it on purpose, and you're wondering, who exactly are they talking about? Maybe a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old. Sounds really crazy.
It is. I know. They're like,
I just think
tell them not to take it personally, which is a good lesson through life. Whatever, if people say mean things,
exactly.
It's not about you. It's about that person saying it to you. Well, understand your child, because instead of taking it personally, understand that you're talking to a 6-year-old who does not have a fully developed brain. Understand where it's coming from. It's not coming from a point of, oh, I'm just going to be mean to mommy today. I'm going to be mean to daddy today. You have to understand who this creature is. So I didn't know if you had to respond. So anyway, that's all right. That's all right. We have like a time delay. No problem. So I think the important thing too is that parents realize that they have all the control over this situation. They are the role models. So if they are in a relationship with a wife, a partner, whatever kind of relationship they're in, if they are speaking, rudely to that person, they are calling names, they are labeling, they're doing, that's what your children are seeing, and that's what they're mimicking. I tell parents, if you're cussing, do you care if your child cusses? And they'll be like, well, they can't cuss because they are children. And I'm like, well, if you're cussing, you're directly teaching them that that's how you talk. They're learning to talk from you. And they should not be getting in trouble for something you taught them. That makes me crazy when parents punish children for something they taught them. Do you agree?
I actually think that is it's, I don't know, it's the unconscious thing. So I usually say that whether you're teaching or you're not teaching, your child is learning. So whether you're teaching intentionally or you're not teaching intentionally, there's a child learning. The child is learning the things you're doing. So, during this lockdown, a lot of parents have reached out to me to say, Oh, I don't know what to do. I'm so frustrated. Oh, I don't even know. Sometimes I throw, you see adults throwing tantrums, they are angry with, everything, the situation. So I was called to speak at a TV program, and I was saying something. It was a phone conversation. And I was saying something earlier. I said, the truth is, the way you navigate this whole process will be the same way your children will be able to learn to navigate things that come to them in this way. So what are you doing? Because at the end of the day, you find out that your child will have a situation like this that takes them unawares, and then you're saying, why can't you just behave this way? Why can't you just deal with this? Meanwhile, they learned how to deal with that situation right from you without even knowing that they are actually learning from you. I say that knowledge is a prerequisite for parenting, especially in the 21st century. Our parents could have gotten away with all that because the vices were not as vicious as we have them now. But the truth is, parenting now, you might not be able to actually get away with such, that kind of parenting, really.
I agree. Anyone can be a parent. Anyone can have a child. Not everyone can be a parent. And it's important to keep learning and absorbing as much information as you can, because in the end, you're growing this adult, and whatever you put in their brains through their years of childhood is what they're taking with them into adulthood. Those seeds are just going to grow more and more and more. And you can plant good seeds, you can plant not so good seeds. And whatever it is, whatever you're doing, they're watching, they're learning, they're retaining, and they're going to eventually do.
Yes.
So I tell parents, look in the mirror. If you don't like what you see in that mirror, this would be the time to change it, because you're growing another one of you.
True.
The other question I had for you is, when you adopted your teenage daughter, she's a daughter, right? I think it's a daughter. And here you had instant teenager, where some people are like, they've raised their children and then they hit the teenager years and they're like, oh my gosh, it's an alien from outer space. And you just went right into that teenage years. How did you create an environment for a child that didn't know you, or maybe she did know you some, I'm not sure how long she knew you for, but in the role of being a mom, how did you create a cooperative, happy, peaceful, fun environment for the two of you before you had twins? And I don't know how many years later you had, 4 years later or something. I know a lot more years.
Yes. Okay. So one of the very major things that I picked out from parenting a teen out of the blues was, 1, you need skills to be able to parent. 2, you need to raise yourself while you're raising your child. I realized that there were a lot of things that I didn't have as an individual that I wanted my child to have. And of course, I knew that role modeling was key when it comes to parenting. That took me to a journey of learning. And I began a journey to actually reparent myself. Because while I was trying to parent a teenager, I realized that there were a lot of things myself as a teenager that I didn't get. So at first, it was a battlefield. It was a true battlefield, because I was trying to do the same thing that was done to me. So I was trying to use force. I was trying to, claim that authority should be by force, which of course, doesn't apply. And of course, that hit a lot of roadblocks. Of course, raising a teenager is a different kettle of fish. So, of course, there was lots of resistance. But at some point, I realized that it was about me and not about my child. That was where my most favorite quote in parenting came from. Parenting is about you and not your child. It's not, your child is not the parent. You are the parent. You have everything to do. The change, you are the one that needs it, not the child. Which is one of the reasons why I am passionate about raising, teaching parents. If you can change, then your child will change, because there's a lot in you. So that took me to the journey of now reforming myself. The moment I was able to do that, it was all done. In fact, 80% of the work was done. All I needed to was now to reposition myself as that person that should have influence, on that, teenager. And that worked amazingly. It's been 11 years. She's an adult now. In fact, about getting married, it's been an amazing relationship. When people see us, they go like, oh, wow. Oh, you've done it. In my mind, I'm like, it took me a long way to actually get here. I didn't just get here, just by trying to be pushy or by commanding. I got here by telling myself that there's a lot that I need to learn by parenting this child that I haven't been able to get. And that was one of my greatest wins on the parenting journey, being able to reform myself, really.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, my friend Camille is on here, and she is a coach, a woman's spiritual coach. And I know I didn't say that right, Camille, so excuse me. But she was talking about childhood obesity this morning on her broadcast, and we were talking about that same thing. People want to blame things, but these kids that are having obesity issues, they're not buying the food. Their parents are going and buying the food and bringing it into the house. And you can't expect a child to eat healthy if you're not eating healthy. Thanks, Camille. You can't expect a child to behave calmly if you're not behaving calmly. If your child or your children, great, if they get into a battle and they're getting heated and you just storm in there and start screaming at them, what are you going to do? You're just going to start one big screaming match. It's not going to calm anything down. It's not going to, let the situation, be a little more peaceful and figure out how to resolve the situation. You're not giving the children the opportunity to resolve their own conflict. You're just going in there and screaming and causing more of a problem. So you are the one that has to set the example, has to set the stage. You're the one that is the ultimate role model of how their behavior will come out of them.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, it's like when people say,
oh yeah. So, you mentioned.
Go ahead, Wendy.
Okay. You mentioned about food. Yesterday, someone was asking, my children don't eat vegetables. They don't eat vegetables. Why do you think so? Why do you think they don't like to eat vegetables? Someone asked the person who asked the question, do you stock vegetables in your home? Or you just buy vegetables once in a while and expect that they will eat it? Do they see you eating? It was very instructive. And the parent was, quiet for a while. And then she says, well, I don't really eat a lot of vegetables, but I know that vegetables are good for the children. It was a very funny response. That's what I wanted to add.
Yeah, and a lot of times that's true. I have a fitness company myself, and I've had it since 1987.
Okay.
And I'm a nutritionist, and I used to teach a class on eating and eating healthy, and I used to call it the fun food class, but we used to have a day when there's nothing in the house to eat, and how you could find healthy things to eat, even though kids or parents think there's nothing in the house to eat. But I would tell parents, do not prejudge what your child will like. And this goes for life. Don't, like, if you think, well, my child's going to grow up to be a doctor. Maybe your child has no interest in medicine. Maybe they don't even like the sight of blood. So why would they ever want to be a doctor? If you say, and I had a girlfriend do this, and I brought out these red, yellow, and green peppers for her son, and she looked at them, and I knew he loved them because he ate them with me. As soon as I brought him out to the house, she went like this. And I'm like, well, that's why he doesn't eat vegetables in your house, because you make faces and you say yuck and you predetermine what you're going to like. And that's a really important thing for parents to remember in all aspects of a child's life. Do not predetermine what they're going to like without really finding out what your child likes. Tune into that child.
Yes, that's actually really very important. The predetermination is actually I think it's something that parents do unconsciously, Celia. They just don't think it when they're doing it. You give birth to a child and then you go, oh, this child is supposed to, without thinking that this child is a human being on their own. The fact that you gave birth to the child doesn't mean that you own the child. You're just a guide. So the child is going to become who they are created to be. Your job is to help your child become that person, not become who you want them to be. They are two different things. And I think that's where parents actually get it wrong.
Exactly. Hold on. I was trying to, I can't show that comment. I don't know why it won't show, but it won't show. Exactly. And parents, instead of taking an interest in what your kids love, they become very judgmental. And they're like, I always use my son as an example because it's such a common issue with parents. My son is like an avid video game player, and he's always been, like, almost when he came out of the womb. I think he played video games from the moment he was born. And he's 32 years old, almost 33 years old. And although he had limits and boundaries to how much video gaming he could play as a child, he grew up to get a degree, a Bachelor of Science in video gaming. He went to work for one of the big video gaming companies. He met his wife at that company. They're both video game geeks, as they like to call themselves. But when he played video games, although limits and boundaries were set up so that he would not play all day long, 8 hours a day, he could play for an hour and that was it. I took an interest in his video game play. I would go into his room and ask him, what do you like about this game? How do you play this game? Can I play with you? He didn't like when I played with him, but he would let me play just because, it was nice. So it's so important.
So it's you see how you were able to identify that your son, okay, you like video game, okay, it's fine. I'm going to be the parent. I'm going to guide you. However, and now you say he's gone to the university to get a degree in video gaming, and that's what he does now. So as much as we don't want to overindulge our children, we also will need to understand that we need to get involved first. And as we get involved, it's easier to get involved, to correct them when you are involved. That was actually what prompted my book, Connect to Correct. It was me saying that there's no correction without connection. You need to actually be able to build some kind of connection to be able to correct your child appropriately. So yes, I think that's what it's really about, really.
Exactly. And I love the title of your book. And, and it has to do with how I stress to my clients and my parents that are in my group that they should be having family meetings once a week. Family, talk to each other, talk about what didn't go so right last week, resolve it, let your kids brainstorm solutions. And if your child has a good solution, put it into play. That you will empower them so much. You're basically giving your child the opportunity to speak up and be listened to and be heard and make ideas you actually think are good ideas. And that is directly showing them that you respect them, you trust them, you think they're valid, their thoughts are valid, you are happy that they're in your family, and you're giving them the feeling of belonging. They belong here. They don't have to look for a place to belong.
Yeah.
They belong here with you in their home.
Yes. And Celia, beyond the belonging in the home, there's also a thing that giving a child a voice in the home, does to the child. What it does to the child is that the child will also have a voice outside of the home. I usually say that a child that is shut down at home will be shut down outside of the home, naturally. So there are two extremes to children who are usually bullied. I usually say that it's either you turn out to become a bully to someone else, of course, like they say, hurting people hurt others, or the child will not be able to stand up for themselves. Two extremes that are terrible, that no child should actually go to. Being a bully, not being able to stand up for themselves. So this is what, the family meeting concept, does in the home. It gives your child a voice to be able to stand up, not just in the home, and also to be able to stand up outside of the home. So while we are raising our children, I like the way Celia put it in the day that she was on my platform. She said, we're not raising children, we're raising adults. In fact, it was so instructive. We're raising adults. We're not raising children. Because if you say we're raising children, that means they're going to become children forever. But we're raising people who are transitioning daily to become the adults that will take charge of the society that we are building today. So whatever it is in the small stands that we do it at home, it's what is going to span out to become the kind of people, society that we're going to build tomorrow. That is why I say that parenting is a bedrock of any society.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I tell parents, they have two children, and one child, they go, oh, it's the perfect child. They're so wonderful. And this child constantly gives me a hard time. They're always speaking up. They're always talking back. But when you think about these two examples as adults, the child who is always doing what they're told, will they make a great adult? No, they may wind up being pushed around, like you say, being bullied, wind up being talked into getting into a group that is not so great for them. Whereas the child who is speaking up for themselves, who doesn't mind telling you what they feel, granted, I encourage parents to teach children how to do that respectfully. They don't have to bully a parent or speak rudely, but never stop them from speaking up, because when they become an adult, they will feel very comfortable speaking up and standing up for themselves. And so what seems troublesome as a child is actually wonderful qualities for that person to have as an adult. Oh, and guys, I want to say...
Oh, yes. That's absolutely so cool. Yes.
Yeah, I just want to say, if you guys have questions, we'll go a little bit longer, but if you have questions, put them in the comments. absolutely. I forgot to mention that before, but it's so important to keep in mind, and that's why I always say it, that you're raising adults. You're not raising children. They're already children. Your job is to raise them into adulthood. You want competent, well-adjusted, confident, respectful, kind, well-mannered. I'm a big well-mannered person. Grateful, fun, happy adults. That's what you want to work to create.
I said to a group of parents recently that I do not want my children to obey me all the time. So, it was like a shocker. Why would you say you don't want your children to obey you all the time? I don't want my children to obey me all the time because I'm not right all the time. There are times that I'm not right. I'm not infallible. I think one of the major issues in parenting is the infallibility nature we project. An infallible nature. Why? Where we're saying we're perfect, there's nothing wrong with us. Anything I say is correct. I don't care what you have to say. And funny enough, you're not always correct. Unfortunately. Until you get to that point where you tell yourself, I can't be correct all the time, then you would not expect your children to actually be obedient 100% of the time. That's one of the things that I have learned on my journey. So there are times that my children do not want to do something that I have stated that they need to do. I step back a bit again and I ask myself, what I'm saying, is it right? Is it okay? The fact that I see it as right, does it really make it right? These are the questions that we need to ask ourselves when a child even, disobeys, in quotes. In fact, let me give a very vivid example. I was in the market with my son one of those days, and the market was a local market, so it was kind of rowdy. And while we were there, we were trying to cross the road. I didn't see a truck coming. I just told him, "Hey, just cross while I wait for you." I was trying to hold him and just drag him. I didn't see the truck, but he saw the truck. And then he says, "Mom, you need to stop." At that point, I was going to say, "But I already told you to cross." But something said to me, not everything you say is correct all the time. And, only for me to look back and I saw that, oh, he was actually correct and I was wrong. So, and I was like, oh, so sorry, I didn't even know. I didn't say it. So we must understand that there is a place of you being wrong. And as soon as you get that, then you're never going to expect 100% obedience. Never, ever, ever. It doesn't exist. If you're going to do that, then you're telling us that you're infallible and that you're perfect. Humility in parenting. Somebody saying humility in parenting is key. Teaching your children that parents are not always correct. No. And I'm not afraid to say at every point in time that, hey, I've made a mistake. I'm human. He's also telling my children that I'm human. He's also teaching my children that when they make mistakes, they can come to me because I'm not perfect. And when you project infallibility nature to your children, you're telling them that when you are wrong, don't come to me because I'm perfect. So you need to go and look for imperfect people like you to be able to speak to. That's already a bridge in communication, in connection as regards how we parent. So we must, it's a very salient point, but it's absolutely very important.
Exactly. It's good for your children to know you're human and mistakes happen. And it's a good way of teaching your children that it's okay to make a mistake. We're all human. And sometimes we make a good choice, and sometimes we make a not so good choice. And the consequence is what the consequence is of that choice. And then you revise it and you make a better choice if it didn't work out so well. Camille has a question. I'm going to put it on the screen so you can read it, but it may block. Oh, no, it doesn't. It's good. Okay, so she wants to know, what ideally should a parent do when their adult children act like children and they still are trying to parent them? So basically, they're adult kids.
Oh, okay, I can see the question.
Childish, but the parent is still trying to parent an adult child.
Okay, so what should the parent do when their adult child act like children and they still are trying to parent them?
Right.
Okay. One thing is key in raising adults like your parenting adults and not like your parent child. I'm privileged to have parented an adult for a while now. How many years? And I tell you one thing. One thing that comes in parenting is for every stage of parenting, there's something new to learn. And that happens for every child. It's not just I know this for child A. Then when it comes to child B, I'm going to also be able to implement the same thing. You might actually be hitting the rocks if you do that. So every child is different in their own. And every single child has their uniqueness that you need to be able to parent them with. So when your child moves from preschooler, toddler to a preschooler, from a preschooler to a preteen to a teen and all that, the fact remains that the way you have raised your toddler can never be the way you are raising your preteen, and can never be the way you raise your teen. So it means that for every of this stage, there's a new skill you need to learn. There's a gap. For every time you find issues in parenting, there's a knowledge gap. And if you can fix the knowledge gap, you will be able to actually resolve whatever issue it is. If this child is behaving, in quotes, like a child, acting like a child, there's a knowledge gap from the part of the parent. Apparently, the child has been raised, is still being raised as a child. So you need to look at these gaps and know where exactly they are coming from. This might not be a question that I will be able to say, oh, this is exactly what is wrong and all that, except we know, what the root, where the child is coming from and all the things that have happened to the child over the years. That might also help in saying that this is what you need to do in specific terms. But that said, one of the things that I see is that you need to learn something differently. What is it that you need to learn to be able to fix this? That's the question that you need to. What role are you playing in making this child, this adult act like a child? What is your role in the whole circle? That's actually very important to answer.
Exactly. And, sometimes it's because the parent is trying to do everything for that child, even though that child is an adult. They're not giving them the responsibility of, well, this is my life now. I need to make good choices or back to good or bad choices. And I need to deal with the consequence of that choice that I made. And so often with adult kids, parents want to, they still want to keep them safe. I mean, it's what parents want to do, but you're not doing them any favors doing everything for them or taking over. My 5 children are all in their 30s, and 3 out of 5 of them have families of their own. 1 is about to have a family, and they all know I'm a parenting coach. They all know that. My brother, he has young children. He knows that's what I do. But do I just go in there and say, look, this is how you should be doing it? No, I don't offer them help in parenting unless they ask me for advice. They are now the parents.
Correct. Exactly.
So I am not going to hover. I'm not going to tell them what to do. I'm not going to make decisions for them. They are old enough now. I have raised them to be wonderful, amazing adults. Time for them to take responsibility for their life. If they make a bad choice, then they need to suffer the consequence. I hope that helps you.
Oh, yes. And deal with it as well.
Sometimes there's no separation between the parent and adult child because of concerns about their child's well-being. well-being because of the current. Yes. And honestly, unless that adult child has a cognitive or physical challenge that they still have to be cared for. I have a child who's been in my classes since he was 1. He's now, I think, 23 years old, and he has autism. So clearly he's non-communicative. He needs assistance from his parents. But once a child has grown and I'm not saying you desert them, by no means. You're still their parent. You still want to be there for them. You still want to keep them healthy and, well, and living as best a life as they can live, staying true to themselves as much as possible. But sometimes you got to let go and let them make the choices that they need to make.
That's the word. I think I like the last part here. Sometimes you got to really let go, at some point. I know it's a huge concern, yes, especially when you're parenting a child who it's some kind of developmental issues or something. But at some point, you actually will need to put up a strategy to let go, really.
I remember once I was watching a Dr. Phil show, and it was about my 35-year-old lives in my basement and lays on the couch and plays video games and doesn't contribute, or and then they had someone else that lives with the parent and has a job and doesn't contribute. That you just can't let that go on. That is the problem of the parent letting it happen. You are being codependent. You are letting that child live that way. And sometimes it's tough love, and you got to say, it's time. You either pay rent or you leave, because you're not doing that person anything.
Oh, sure. So true. So true.
So anyway, we've been on here for, I guess, about an hour now, and I don't want to keep you much longer, but I really appreciate you being on. And guys, I hope this helped you a lot in your journey as a parent. And if there's any last minute questions, pop them in. But I would like to ask Wendy to tell all of you how you can connect with her and her wonderful intentional parenting group, because I love her and she's wonderful.
All right. Thank you so much. It's been amazing being on this show. Thank you, Pumped Up Parenting. Thank you, Celia. You can find me on any social media outlet as Wendy Ologe, or you look out for our brand name, The Intentional Parent. The Intentional Parent, we also have a group on Facebook. We are on Facebook page, on Instagram. We are on YouTube at The Intentional Parent. You can also go watch the conversation I had with Celia on YouTube the other day. It was explosive, awesome. And there are a lot of videos that you can find on our YouTube channel. And every other outlet, that you want to find us, you will find us as Wendy Ologe or The Intentional Parent. Either of them works. And thank you for having me here. It was such a great pleasure having this conversation.
And I just have to put this one on the screen because this is my grandson. And he is in 2nd grade and he's just saying hi. So I have to put him, see, Gammon. That's my baby. That's what my babies call me, Gammon. So thank you, Mason, for joining us. That's my name. And that's nice. My baby. And I miss them.
Hi, Mason.
And Camille says, wonderful discussion, so informative. Thank you, Celia and Wendy. Thank you for Camille for being here. And thank you to everyone for being here with us. We constantly enjoy connecting here and there with each other because we come from the heart and we're here to help all you parents become the best parents you can be so your kids can become the best adults they can be. And with that, unless you have any last words, Miss Wendy. I'll say goodbye to everyone.
Yes.
Any last words?
Yes. Thank you, everybody. Goodbye.
Okay. Goodbye, everybody. Here's
okay. So one thing I just want you to know, to remember, is that it takes you to actually become a better parent. You need to do something. It's not your child. Anything, if there's anything that you're having on your journey, you need to fix you. Remember that if something is not changing in you as your parent, then you need to go back to ask if you're parenting effectively. Thank you for being here with us. It was such an awesome time with you. My name is Wendy Ologe.
Thank you, Wendy. And thank you, Mary Beth. You also are amazing. And I appreciate you all being on. And here's to your days being filled with peace, love, and tons of laughter. It really is the best medicine. So laugh a lot with your kids. Have fun. And we'll see you here next time in Facebook, in YouTube, in Periscope. All of you, glad you could be on. And we'll see you around the web. Bye, everyone. And I don't know how to end.
Bye.
Bye.